be one of the new settlers. Welcome to Gilded Vale. You'll be pleased to know that we've had some recent vacancies here.
Evoking nostalgia is a tricky business. There can be a kind of hollowness to it. A thing can look and sound the part while missing all of the intangibles, the components that can't be described but are felt and understood so completely.
A crumbling castle, abandoned to memories, and an old man who can no longer tell them from reality. I'd say we've seen some rather strange things.
Pillars of Eternity is not like that. Despite being an exceedingly literal reincarnation of Infinity Engine classics, the game is more than a mere imitation. It understands that elements like dwarves, magic missiles, and dialogue trees are only incidental, appreciable decorations to a much warmer center. Pillars creates a vibrant, intricate, and fantastical world, and then finds 100 different ways to let you get lost in it. Part of what makes the game successful is that it never loses sight of the journey. Like any other RPG, you'll acquire plenty of powerful gear as you search every corpse, crevice, and crate. Yet the difference is that getting more stuff isn't the point, and only an ancillary benefit. Your journal provides adequate summaries of all the various objectives, but rarely hints at a reward because it doesn't need to. It feels like every single quest is meaningful because of how elaborate and well-written it all is. In the capital city of Defiance Bay, you may stumble into a tavern and find a woman with a black eye spinning a ring on a wooden table. What begins as a simple quest to return the ring to her abusive husband becomes a far more insidious tale of deception. Such storylines are in abundance, and all of them are given as much attention, if not more, than the main narrative.
Listen!
2 tolls. Let that be the last.
3. Gods have mercy.
None of it falls victim to high fantasy cliches. The world has so much rich detail and history that it takes dozens of hours to get a grip on everything. Pillars takes a keen interest in the soul and toys around with the concept in several interesting ways. The character you play is a watcher, someone who can commune with disembodied souls, which allows the player to see multiple sides of a story. A murder mystery takes a different tone when you can actually talk to the deceased. A past war seems much more convoluted when you hear motivations from dead soldiers on both sides.
I thought, maybe this old watcher would know how my brother died, so I could see if it was true. Like he could, I don't know, read it in my soul or something.
It's a sort of spiritualism that hasn't really been present since Planescape Torment, but none of it feels like a retread. Whereas Planescape is a game about personal identity, Pillars has a more outward focus. Your character is often little more than a vessel that collects the stories of others, embroiling himself or herself in so many different facets of the world.
It's good to be on the road again.
Party members aren't heavily focused on unless you actively pursue conversations with them. Although no one is as immediately charming as, say, Minsk from Baldur's Gate, on the whole the characters are incredibly likable, if you take the time to get to know them.
That should be far enough. But what now?
We look for another way out. Storm has to die sometime.
Sagani, a female dwarf, is from a small island village and is looking for the reincarnated spirit of a former tribe leader. Her story feels sparse initially, but after several conversations, you'll understand the deep connection she has with her people, her commitment to duty, and how much she misses her family. Yet those who rarely engage with her will likely have a much different opinion. The same is true for all of Pillars of Eternity. It's dense, meant to be taken slow, and best approached without the checklist mentality that works in most games. Instead, you need to sink into it, tuning yourself to its very deliberate pace. Such an effort is duly rewarded. Every path, doorway, or chance encounter is just another opportunity for a new adventure.
I just want to find her. Surely even you can understand that.
If storytelling is the primary draw, combat admirably plays the supporting role. Rarely can you just turn your mind off and mindlessly swing away. The slightest bit of carelessness will often result in swift death, even on the lower difficulty settings. Every room must be approached cautiously. Players will frequently have to pause fights in order to reposition, select new abilities, and tend to wounds. While some may view the constant micromanagement as tedious, victory tends to be the result of the smallest decisions.
Stand still!
Other touches keep quests tense for their duration. You can only fully heal by resting, which requires camping supplies or a visit to the inn. Supplies are limited and inns are few and far between, meaning each rest can't be taken lightly. New levels come relatively infrequently as well, so how you choose to build a character makes all the difference. There's also the Stronghold, which once acquired can be upgraded for a variety of benefits. Building the training grounds increases your group's strength, for instance. None of these bonuses feel vital, but the Stronghold does an effective job of serving as a very tangible mark of progression. It's great seeing your dusty keep very slowly transform into a formidable fortress.
Those hooded fiends are nigh to be trusted!
Yet a few prevalent issues can make things more awkward than necessary. Chief among them is the pathfinding, which is regularly dreadful. Numerous times characters failed to reach desired positions in combat because they tried running through people instead of simply going around, leading to annoying instances where you have to stop and correct them.
I've asked around, but nobody in this mud hole has any concerns beyond their swine.
Another issue is that voice work is inconsistent. When dialogue is voiced, it's often well done. Unfortunately, it's also very sporadic. Few things are as jarring as when a character has no problem speaking at the beginning and end of a conversation, but is weirdly absent in the middle.
Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
These are small grievances with what is ultimately one of the best games to bear the Obsidian name, which isn't said lightly. Like so many RPGs, Pillars of Eternity is immense with an abundance of things to do, but unlike so many RPGs, it manages to fill its many spaces with craft and care. The towns aren't just towns, the dungeons aren't just dungeons, and the characters aren't just an assembly of stats. Everything takes on a very believable form, transporting players to truly fascinating places.
That's funny. That's probably the first thing I got my hopes up for in, I don't know, years.